Hey guys, Ben from Never Over Live here with a new segment we're calling Hot Tag, which is going to be a quick recap of everything that happened in the WWE this week. A little bit like our Wrestle Recap podcast, but in this way we're going to give it to you faster, going to give you the quick rundown, everything like that. And tomorrow, on Thursday, we're going to break down everything that happened subjectively. We're going to talk a little bit, give our opinions and things like that, but let's just jump right into it. So let's start with Monday Night Raw, with Seth Rollins being introduced the fifth member to Raw's Survivor Series team. Kind of an interesting move there. We all thought it was going to be Sami Zayn, but they decided to go with Seth Rollins instead. We saw some Cruiserweight action go down. We saw Sin Cara and Rich Swann defeat Brian Kendrick and hometown hero Noam Dar. Rich Swann getting a pin over the champion there. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. Enzo and Cass, Anderson and Gallows, Golden Truth, Cesaro, all brought out to the ring from New Day to kind of get rally of the troops there as they go looking forward to their Survivor Series tag team traditional elimination matchup. We saw Bayley, Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks defeat Charlotte, Dana Brooke, and Nia Jax in some 6-woman tag team action there, with Bayley getting the pin over Charlotte after a Bayley to belly suplex. On Raw, they actually held a number 1 contenders match for Dolph Ziggler's Intercontinental Championship for Survivor Series. We saw Sami Zayn go up against Rusev. Sami Zayn picking up the victory there. He's going on to face Dolph Ziggler at Survivor Series for the Intercontinental Championship, and you'll see that championship, I would imagine, switch brands if that goes down, or maybe the Superstar. We'll see what happens. And finally, to end the show, we had all 5 men on the Raw Survivor Series tag team participate in a fatal 5-way match where we saw Kevin Owens unknowingly pin Chris Jericho after getting super punched by Roman Reigns after Chris Jericho ate a pedigree. Very interesting dilemma there. We're not quite sure what's going to happen with Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. As you can see to my left over here, we have an updated table for Raw's Survivor Series teams with the women's team, men's team, tag teams all filled out. Very interesting going forward. We also saw some changes happen to the SmackDown side of things, so let's jump over. Very interesting stories being told over on the B Show this week as Baron Corbin's been pulled from the 5 vs. 5 traditional Survivor Series match with a leg injury. He suffered it during a match with Kalisto where he slipped off the apron, actually pulling something, hyperextending it in his leg, so he was removed from the 5v5 traditional Survivor Series tag team match. We also saw some women's action where Naomi took on Natalya with Nikki Bella on commentary. Carmella would then come out, run some interference, cause some problems. Naomi would pick up the roll-up sunset flip victory, Natalya. Ultimately, women's shenanigans, but I'm looking forward to seeing their match at Survivor Series. Obviously, the Baron Corbin versus Kalisto match would go to a no contest after Kalisto worked on the seemingly injured leg of Baron Corbin. They would have to pull him, like I said earlier, from the Survivor Series match. One interesting note about Kalisto is the fact that he was actually given a Cruiserweight Championship match against Brian Kendrick going into Survivor Series, where if he wins, he brings the Cruiserweight division over to SmackDown Live. Very, very interesting move there, considering that there's no roster really fleshed out over on SmackDown Live, so I'll be curious to see whether everyone switches over to the blue brand, or whether they'll try and establish their own, especially tying in with 205 Live. It was announced that Undertaker and Edge will be on SmackDown Live next week for the 900th episode. Very interesting to see the return of the Dead Man. Edge, a great addition in there as well. Be cool to see what happens there. In a rivalry that has built up over the last 2 months, we finally got to see the Women's Championship match over on SmackDown take place between Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch retaining the title with a little bit of controversy in there as she had the disarmer on Alexa Bliss, but Alexa Bliss's foot was on the bottom rope. She went on to tap, the match was over, but I'll be interested to see how this develops next week and then going into Survivor Series. We saw Breezango defeat the Vaudevillains to qualify for that last tag team spot on the SmackDown 5-team vs. 5-team traditional Survivor Series match. Interesting to see them go over the Vaudevillains. And in the main event, we had the Wyatts and Randy Orton defeat Dean Ambrose, Kane, and James Ellsworth in 6-man tag team action. They kept James Ellsworth out of the ring as much as possible until Bray Wyatt finally got his hands on him, hit his sister Abigail, and that ended the night. And then Daniel Bryan will come out and announce that Shane McMahon was replacing Baron Corbin in the traditional 5v5 Survivor Series match. So we got all of our teams are set, as you can see right there. As you can see right there. Very interesting to see Shane McMahon added as a late addition, especially 2 weeks out from SmackDown, but I suppose that we'll see how that develops next week on SmackDown Live. Well, that'll actually do it for Hot Tag. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. It's really snappy to try and get as much information out as quickly as possible. As you can see, we got some things coming up. We got Wrestle Recap podcast tomorrow where we're going to break down everything I talked about today. The 3 of us, Brad, Dawson, myself, going to talk about it a little bit more subjectively. Obviously, looking forward to Survivor Series, looking forward to next week to see what's going to happen on Raw and SmackDown. This Saturday is UFC 205, so if you're a UFC fan, either follow us on Twitter. We're considering doing something here Maybe a live stream, not quite sure yet. We're looking at it. We'll see what happens. But definitely follow us over on Twitter if you're a UFC fan, because we'll be tweeting live about the results of the card as things happen. We're kind of pulling for Conor McGregor, which is a little bit of a bias. So follow us over Twitter at NeverOverLive. Next week, we'll have this again. I'll come in with the hot tag, second hot tag, and we'll do the Wrestle Recap podcast episode 4. And then leading into the weekend, Saturday, we have NXT TakeOver. Still might see a stream for that. I think we're going to do one. Low stakes, no predictions. We'll probably do hot take predictions on the fly. And then next Sunday, the 20th, Survivor Series. And you can join us for our full coverage of Survivor Series with a live pre-show starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. Very important, early start time. It's a 4-hour show. It's jam-packed. It's going to be very, very good by the looks of things. But we look forward to seeing you then. I want to thank you for joining me here on the Hot Tag, and we'll see you soon.